Hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and I'm back in the wild country to a place I was last winter, where I came out here when the lake was frozen. There was snow everywhere. I had some snowshoes. I snowshoed across this lake behind me and found a canoe that I wanted to get out of, bring back to my house to fix. It's got holes in the bottom, but it was frozen in the ground. I couldn't get it out. I tried pretty hard and actually hurt my back trying to get it out of the ground. I had to give up on it and leave it till now. So now it's kind of like the tail end of summer, almost fall, and back here it's beautiful, picturesque, wild location, about a half-hour hike from my back door. Totally wild back here, and there's a canoe way over there. So what I plan to do is, I got this canoe that I have stashed here, and I'm going to use this canoe to get across the lake, and then we're going to patch the other canoe up just using this is like Tyvek tape. It's exterior vapor barrier tape. You could use duct tape, you could use any sort of good, really sticky tape, right? So the plan is to repair the holes, drag the canoe to the lake, tow it behind this canoe, bring it back here, get it up in the woods, and leave it here till there's some snow. Once there's some snow, I can drag it back to the house. Or maybe I'll just do the repairs out here. I'll just bring the fiberglass and everything to here and do all the work out here. That probably a lot easier to do. Anyway, first step is to get the canoe in the water and get her going. All right, so we're underway, and I have to say the lake is remarkably low when you bear in mind all the rain and hurricanes and everything we've had recently here in Nova Scotia. So this is very strange. I don't really understand it. There's rocks sticking out everywhere, and there's like stuff growing, sticking up out of the water that I ordinarily wouldn't see. So I'm inclined to think that the excess rain we had maybe blew out the beaver dams at the bottom of this lake. I'm at the top of the lake system here, right? It's a drainage system. Boy, I have to really, there's rocks in places I'm not used to having to worry about rocks. It's very shallow. Anyway, I got to get across the lake here, but this is really strange. I mean, this lake is very low, and we've had a ridiculous amount of rain and floods and all kinds of stuff, like, rain warnings. We just had a hurricane here days ago. So this is kind of hard to understand. Anyway, I gotta get across this lake. I'll catch up with you when I'm at the other end. Not much more to see here. And just a little note, every summer I expect to do a whole bunch of outdoorsy videos, and there seems to be a reason I don't make them. I just want to apologize for that. It's just, can't seem to get around it. Right around the time in late May, I had a whole week booked off and all these plans to go in the woods, and I had all these great plans and all these adventures I was going to make while my kids are in school, my wife was working, and I was just free for an entire week. And the province caught on fire. We had forest fires everywhere. I was afraid I was going to lose my house. It was just a terrible time. And like, even if I'd wanted to go in the woods during that week, you weren't allowed to. You weren't allowed to be in the woods, basically, because people were setting fires everywhere, and it was just a catastrophe. So I didn't get to do anything those weeks. And then the weeks afterwards, there were just all kinds of things going on. And I did a lot of fishing and stuff over the summer, but I'd usually be with a buddy or have my kids with me or something like that, and I just don't film that stuff, right? So I just have not been able to get away by myself doing stuff like this, and I don't want to have one of those outdoors channels where half the content is just me in my backyard talking about how much I know and how awesome I used to be. Who's got, it is useful to do videos where you're speaking from your experience and just talking theoretically about bushcraft and survival and stuff like that, but You know, I prefer to be out in the woods doing stuff and making videos about that. I mean, I will do some videos like that where I'm just sort of talking generally about gear and stuff. Yeah, I don't want the channel to be that. I want the channel to be me out in the woods doing stuff. So that's what I'm doing today. We'll catch up in a little bit. Just to give a sense of how low the water is, you can see there's a little tuft of bushes right there. Normally I can get my canoe between the bushes and the shore. I can get through there, and the water there is at least a foot too shallow for that. Like normally I can sail right through that. So let's say there's 6 inches of draft on top of the rocks minimum always. So I'd say this lake is at least 20 inches below normal. What's that, like 50 centimeters sort of thing? So this is really low. All right, so here I am at the other end of the lake. It's not a big lake, maybe a 15-minute paddle and you're at the other end. So, you know, no sailboats in here. Actually, I've never seen another soul here. There is a 12-foot aluminum boat hidden in the woods nearby that some guys use, but I think they actually access it from a lake down there. But this is really neat. So just as I expected, or just as I hypothesized, the dam is gone. So there's normally, as far as I can remember, there's been a beaver dam going from there to there. I've even got a video, I think a couple of years ago, I came out here still recovering from the COVID and was half dead trying to portage and get my canoe through here. So normally there's a beaver dam right here. And normally this river is not nearly as high, but now it's quite high. So high, in fact, that I'm thinking of paddling it and just giving it a try, because that's easier than dragging the canoe. So I'm also curious to know how high it is at the other end. Normally I can just cross the river on foot. The canoe that I have hidden is on that side of the river. But the path to get down there is sort of a very rough, almost like a deer path on this side of the river. Anyway, I got to get down there, yeah, I'm just going to scout this out a little bit and see how navigable the river is. Well, here I am at the other end of the kind of like, I guess you call them rapids. So this looks very navigable, and it is. But where the other canoe, I decided to walk down instead of trying to canoe it, because it's basically impassable. It looked pretty good at the top, but it quickly becomes unnavigable, and there's been more trees blown down by the last hurricane, so you need a chainsaw to make it through here. Right? It would have been very frustrating to try to canoe this, at least from the looks of this end of it. So anyway, this hidden canoe is around here somewhere. I just got to find a way to get to it without swimming. Because the water, she's flooded here. She's flooded real good. So we did a little bit of rock hopping, and we'll catch up with you in a minute when we found the canoe. All right, well, here's the canoe, and you can see why there was no way I was getting it out of the ground last winter, because it's right in the water. And I'm curious to see what condition it's in. We'll flip it over now. It should be okay. And I can see someone, looks like somebody patched that with some tape or something, temporary patch, which is basically what I was planning to do today. But I want to get it across the lake and repair it properly with fiberglass. And certainly just sitting here in the water like this is not going to do it any good. And as I recall, I don't even think this canoe has seats or anything, right? Pretty rough and ready. So let's flip her over and see what we got here. All right, well, I was wrong. I guess it does have seats. I guess I just forgot. Right? So actually it looks like it's in pretty good shape, other than that one hole and obviously some fiberglass work done over there. So it's actually not too bad. It does require a little bit of fixing up. Certainly at the end there, you can see the ends rotted off a bit. I think it would be useful to just get it up out of here, get it back somewhere I can work on it a bit, dry it out, paint it, you know, just bring it back to its former glory. So, and those paddles were just sitting in the water right? I mean, a canoe needs to be sort of up off the ground on a cradle where air can get underneath it if you want them to last at all. Otherwise they will, even fiberglass, everything will just fall apart over time. Anyway, this is not a light canoe. I'd say this is at least 90-pound canoe. So it's going to be a real pain moving it and getting it out of here. But it needs to, like, look at this end piece here. The wood is just rotten, right? So yeah, it needs a little bit of work. I'm going to do fiberglass work, but not today. I'm just going to get it out of here and somewhere it can dry, somewhere I can walk to. I don't have to go on a huge adventure to work on it. Thought I'd just do a little sequence there using a single pulley rigged up like this, and I've done this in other videos. If they have the pulley attached to the thing you're going to move and the rope you're pulling attached to a fixed object and pulling the other end, you cut the force required by half. So this really heavy canoe, I was like 90 pounds or something like that, you know, or would you rather pull up a steep, this is like a 45-degree hill here. I could pull it up here, but I'm 51. I've always had like back issues. I do back exercises 3 times a week. You know, I got a whole regiment. I'm in good shape and all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't take, all I have to do is move the wrong way and it can go. And anyone with back problems understands that. So by taking, I mean, I could have pulled it up this hill in about 2 minutes by just grabbing it and going. And I'd probably be okay, but if I hurt my back, it usually takes about 2 weeks to be normal again. And I don't want to lose 2 weeks of active time. And of course, every one of those back injuries seems to be like cumulative. So whatever's happening in there, I don't want to make it any worse over time. So I took an extra few minutes and just, you know, leapfrogged the pulley. And now I'm pretty much at the top of the hill. So now it's a plateau. So I'm not going to bother with the pulley now, unless I start feeling anything on my back. I'll just drag it with a rope, and it's going to float. It'll just float on these bushes to some extent, and we'll take it to the lake. All right, I'm back at the lake. I got the original canoe. I thought I'd give this one last inspection because I could have sworn there was a hole in this, and it's right here. It's a crack. I'm guessing it's just from being submerged in the water and it freezing and thawing over the winters. So this canoe used to be my next door neighbor and a friend of his. This is when he was in his 50s. Dragged this out to the lake. The two of them and 12 beers sort of story. It's a heavy canoe. They dragged it out to the lake in like summer, like June or July, like a time I would never take it. I took my canoe out to the lake in the winter on the snow. They took it out in the summer. They stashed it somewhere in the woods, told me roughly where it was. I don't think they ever used it again. Maybe they used it a few times. So after a few years went by, I asked him if I could stash it at the bottom of this river where the other lake begins, just for ease of accessing the other lake. I wouldn't have to portage my canoe to a second lake. He said sure, and it was running fine for a number of years, but I think 2 years ago I was out and I got it in here with a buddy and the water just started spraying into the canoe. You can see there was some slapdash repair done here, and this one's actually patched on the inside. You can see a little patch there. Where the patch matters is on the outside. So anyway, I'm going to dry this off with my shirt and use some of the tape I've got to patch that up. Alright, we'll take it out in the water and just show like even with a little bit of tape, you can patch a canoe, you know, good enough that it'll work. You can see this has been maybe painted, repaired various times. It's an old canoe, right? I think the original color might have been green, believe it or not, and then red, and then this other shade of red on top of that. So I mean, it's been through the ringer, it's been repaired lots of times, but I think it's still got plenty of life in it. We just gotta get a little more fiberglass on it, maybe a fresh coat of paint, and this thing will be good for another decade. Anyway, let me get this dried off, get some tape on there, and have a little lunch, and then get her in the water. All right, so I put the Tyvek tape or tuck tape or whatever you call this stuff. It's like super sticky exterior tape. Okay, this is not a permanent repair, although I wouldn't be surprised if this repair would probably work for 5 years. But the crack's pretty substantial right in the middle of the canoe, so I don't think it's a good idea to run the canoe with a big crack like that. I mean, we'll be fine for today, but over the long run, we need to fiberglass this to restore the strength. And I'm sure there's some crack here. This stuff, whoever put this on, I don't know what this is. It seems kind of rubberized, and it's much thicker than this Tyvek tape. Almost like it's maybe a marine application of some sort of thing. It's very substantial. So anyway, I'm sure there's a good hole there too, right? So the canoe's been through the ringer, and I'm pretty sure that's just ice damage from being improperly stored. But right now I got to get this thing across the lake, and the wind's picking up, so I don't know what it's going to be like towing a canoe behind a canoe in high wind by myself in a canoe. We'll see how that goes. All right, so I'm out in the lake, and I didn't tie this thing on properly. I just have it tied to my seat here, so it's not towing nice and clean, but it's fine. I'm not going that far. It's working out just fine. A little bit of wind on the lake, but not too much. As you can see, I'm getting blown or turned around here. Anyway, yeah, it's going just fine, and the canoe doesn't seem to be taking on any water. I mean, it's sitting high anyway because there's nobody in it. This is a weird canoe, this one here. It's quite it's less stable than this one. I don't know what design this one was, but these are very well designed. It's got like 3 keels and a flatter bottom. This one's very round. It only has 1 keel, so it's much less stable than this. Almost built like a Grumman, but this one's much faster than this canoe. This one's more like a tank. And I'm starting to get blown in these rocks, so I gotta start paddling or I'm gonna be blown ashore. And here I am, back where I started. What a peaceful sound, that river coming out of there. This part of the province, this is the way the rivers and lakes work, generally speaking. The lakes are small, and the rivers are pretty much, many of them anyway, are unnavigable. They're just all rocks and water, and there might be multiple streams, and they break up and become like multiple fingers, almost like they go through the woods and even underneath the ground, and because it's so rocky, right? There's so much granite and stuff like that, and they come out into the lakes with this black water with all this foam and that sort of thing. And the water's all tea-stained, right? Everything has got a brown color. That's just the way it is around here. Anyway, I got to get this canoe and the other canoe up the hill here and into the woods and somewhere where it can get nice and dry, so I can come back another day and do some fiberglass work and maybe some painting. I'm just doing a little examination of this canoe. Pretty sure it's fiberglass, but for some reason the end caps are made of wood. And the wood was starting to rot, so they put like an extra piece of wood on top here, which I just peeled off. There's a piece of like plywood going across here. So it's all rotting, and this is all soft, and you can see it's cracked here, right? So these have to come off and have to be replaced with something. And I'll probably build out some sort of fiberglass type thing. I mean, look at the other end. I was able to get this one right off. You can see they put like these nailers down here, right? Just to have something to attach this wood to. This is some sort of makeshift repair or something, I don't know. But these need a cap. I don't know why they wouldn't have just had a metal cap over them in the first place, which is, I'll probably make something like that. I'll get some relatively easy to bend tin or something like that, put those over it, because that'll last, right? But yeah, you got an air pocket in here. I guess it keeps the canoe from sinking, and some foam down there. These ends are all filled with foam. You know, the thing that capsizes, that's what keeps it from flipping. But I haven't got the gear I need to get this all apart here. I just got a survival knife and a backup knife, basically, right? So I need I think a number 2 Roberts to get at these. Anyway, got a little makeshift cradle rigged up here, right? So I'm just gonna put these canoes side by side. It's a nice sunny, windy place here. They can air out, and next time we have a string of nice days run together, I can come out here and work on this thing and hopefully get it back on the other end of the lake before freeze up. You know, it's only the middle of September, so we got at least a month of nice weather that's warm enough to do fiberglass work outside. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I got about a half an hour, 35 minute hike out of the woods now, but a productive day. I got that canoe. I'm gonna have it somewhere where it can dry out, and then I can work on it next time. So anyway, just out messing around in the woods, finding canoes and fixing them. No fishing today because it's in September where I live in Nova Scotia. For this lake only has trout, and trout are only catch and release this time of year. And I've done videos on this before. If I can't eat them, I don't want to catch them, sort of thing. I don't really do catch and release. I just leave the fish alone if I can't eat them. So I didn't bother bringing the rod out today. Just out for a good hike, a good paddle, and moving a project forward. You know, something that I've been had my mind on for months and months and months. So I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and until next time, enjoy the outdoors on the cheap. Thanks for watching.